Yeah, I would give UMass credit. They're so physical, which is what you would expect, from Frank's teams. And I think Coach Matt Cross at Miami's he's a tough kid. Cohen, kind of followed him a little bit last year. It's such a great year at St. Francis. Really talented offensive player. And then I think Diggins really he's got to be the most improved player in the league. Maybe there's somebody else I'm not thinking of, but he really has made a big jump. Again, I thought our guys, it's funny, we've played two pretty good halves against them. The first half up there, the second half here. I was happy with the way we continued to compete, even though, we dug ourselves quite the hole. I thought we got great shots that we just missed. One of whatever it was, 17 or something in the first half. You're not going to win many games like that, especially our team. But it was good to have Darren back. I think he's one of the best. He's not just one of the best young players in the league. He's probably one of the best players in the league, to be honest. Excited about his performance. Our freshman, some very good minutes. Jacoy again continues to play well. He's getting thrust into a lot of opportunity, and then I thought Trey gave us good minutes as well. So disappointing, but I'm we're not playing the score. We're just trying to play the game right now, and I think that's my biggest challenge. Defense, we did shoot around today. You probably say this is why we missed all the threes, but we've been guarding so poorly. We decided to defend for 40 minutes live, and while it was in man, and that our man-to-man was not great today, the zone was very good. So actually our best defensive points per possession since Mason the first game, believe it or not. So I was happy with their lock-in, their connectivity defensively, although again it was more in the zone than man. But second half, thought we got good looks, 55%, 45 from three, so a better second half offense. We got to be able to put two together here to get off the schneid.
Chris, they don't hit a ton of threes, but for them to come out and hit 6 in the first half, especially in comparison to you guys.
It's a little bit us. We're a little bit small, across the board, and some of those contests, they're just, and this is where we have to improve as we continue to get a little bit older and bigger across the board at the guard position, at the forward position, what have you. Obviously, having Garrett out as another bigger guy that would be playing a lot of minutes, but our contests, we've got to be able to. I'll have to watch them to see if many were open. There were a couple mistakes, but I think again our overall length has to improve, and just sometimes just a little bit of that can make guys miss. Just a little too open.
When you talk about playing the game and not the score and whatnot, I got to imagine that's tied into just trying to figure out how to navigate a season in a situation like this. Is that maybe as big a challenge as you faced over the last couple of years, just trying to figure out, all right, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened?
Yeah, certainly, again, if you go back to 11 games ago, that wasn't the case. We're, feeling like, hey, we've got some good things going, we're playing very well. It's turned into something different. Quite honestly, it's turned into what it normally turns into for people who take over new jobs. It happened for UMass, it happened for Loyola. If we look at us between January 1 of 23, okay, we played on New Year's Eve at Loyola Chicago, and then January 16th, we're 24, I think 24 and 11. So that's a little bit different in terms of where we were at that point than maybe what was expected. And now we were probably a little bit ahead of schedule with our young crew, third most minutes, third most points of anybody in the country coming from freshmen. We're probably where we maybe should be, that we're trying to get better, and those guys are getting better. And how do you get better to the point where you don't just perform well, but that you can play winning basketball?
I know you touched on this earlier, but the team struggled a lot, 3-point shooting, 1 for 17 in the first half, better in the second. What do you think went into the...
Probably shooting luck, to be honest. Shooting variance, we call it. It just, you can look at those shots in the first half, and I would guess, when we go back and watch that tape, they were paint call them paint to great, right? Paint to great threes from guys who can pretty much make them. Not every one of them. Maybe we probably could pick one or two out that we didn't like, but I'd say a good number of those were ones that were paint to great. That's so you call shooting variants, you know. And we've made a bunch in the last 2 games, so maybe this is, you know, water finds its level.
In January, you guys didn't face up against Matt Cross. He had a big game tonight.
Yeah.
Can you just talk about the added size and physicality that he brings along?
I know him well. I recruited him to Miami, so you know, Matt's a very tough competitor, physically tough guy. Like, he could be a football player, he could be an Army Ranger, he could be like a guy he's very tough. He's a good passer. Plays with great force and physicality. You really got to match his physicality, and you know, we have that. You know, somebody like that in Darren at times. You know, but it's hard when you get a switch or the wrong defender on him. He can, you know, his reputation coming out of high school was that of a 3-point shooter, and he can make a 3. But what he really has become is just such a downhill, aggressive, attacking guy, and a good rebounder.
Obviously, you've talked a lot in these press conferences about like third most minutes, third most points. Yeah. It's a young team going through a really rough skid of a recently good basketball that isn't turning into results.
Yeah.
How do you kind of keep the heads up of Buchanan, Jacoy, these guys who are now being thrust into minutes where they could be held responsible for wins and losses while still encouraging them to develop and just play the game?
So, you know, it's funny, all young players want playing time, and then you say like, oh, with that comes responsibility for wins and losses. Well, I'm not sure if I want that. You know, it's like, no, it kind of works together. But no, I talked to all our freshmen last week about being both urgent and patient, right? Urgent in your approach and in the days that you get to come to work, and how focused you have to be, how urgent you have to be with your development, right? And everything you have to learn, because 1, you're getting a lot of minutes. 2, you have to improve. But yet also you have to be patient, and you have to look at things like, hey, if you really looked at the numbers, you'd say you're getting a lot of experience that people in your class are not getting. And so you have to be patient and think, hey, I can grow from this, and down the road, this can turn out to be something that's very, very good. You can learn. There's, you know, from these no losing, there's learning. The problem with college basketball now, and I feel good about our group. The problem with college basketball is that a lot of times you spend your time developing guys, then they go do that somewhere else. You know, I spent a lot of time in the gym with Matt Cross, I don't know, like right after COVID, whenever that was. I like to think like his good night tonight, I got something to do with that. You know? So, but that was like a long time ago. You guys were like in 8th grade when that happened.
As a coach, just how are you navigating the tough stretch, and what's the message to your staff on how to just continue on the brand message of what you see for the program?
Yeah, nothing's changed about what I see for the future of the program. In fact, I'm more and more encouraged by, as I've said, our leadership and the commitment, and I think people who have a shared vision of what this could be and understand that this stuff takes time, and especially in this environment that's ever changing. You know, when federal judges are deciding to just change the rules in the middle of our plan, like that usually, you know, could complicate things for everybody. But no, I'm not handling it great. I don't think, like, I'm not happy every day, you know, but I'm being urgent and patient as well, and understanding that this may take a little bit longer. You know, UMass had a losing record last year and lost 7 of their last 9. Loyola finished in last. Last year, Richmond had a losing record last year in the league. Now that they're having great seasons, I'm not saying that there's no guarantees that would be us, but the reality is that's what can happen in college basketball in this day and age. But with the staff, it's, hey, we just got to continue to get better. We got to continue. It's like everything. You got to recruit. We got to have better players. We got to have people that fit what we're all about, and we have some holes that we know we have to fix, and we have to get these younger guys better.
With UMass leaving the conference, I would just love to hear a little bit about your thoughts about that and how that will affect conference play.
I mean, I don't know if it'll affect us. I mean, I have friends in Western Massachusetts because I went to school there. I guess I won't see now. So maybe, you know, but I don't think the restaurants will be as good for the UMass people in the Midwest. I mean, you get to go to DC and Philadelphia and New York and Chicago and St. Louis, and so, you know, respectfully, I'm not sure some of the towns in the MAC have as good of food. So I would think that would be a big factor for
Not a
them.
fan of Kalamazoo.
No, never been.
At this point in the season, you know, it's kind of all eyes are sort of looking towards the tournament as sort of, I don't want to say like a last chance, but it's looking like there's going to be a bit more pressure on the tournament to sort of maybe define the season. Is that sort of a narrative at all in the locker room or anything like that?
Yeah, I think I've told you guys this. Our second to last season at Miami, we had the most injuries in the Power 5, had a few things going on like kind of we do now, and that team sort of was starting to do what we were doing, like kind of play well but not win, but enjoying competing together. And then I think we won our last regular season game at home, and then we go to the ACC tournament and we beat like Clemson and then Pitt, and then we're like a Jose Alvarado loose ball away from beating Georgia Tech in the quarterfinal. And then the next day we go home. The next day, COVID breaks out. We would have been in the championship game because I think Virginia got sick.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Tech won. We were supposed to play Virginia. Virginia got sick. Had we gotten the loose ball, which Jose Alvarado's in the NBA, probably for that loose ball alone, if anybody was there was watching that day. But so like I've been through that, you know, and that would have been pretty funny. But what happened, and I've told the team this, is you go from that stretch where you're not winning, it ain't fun. All of a sudden it does become fun to compete together, and then you find some winning, even deep in tournament play, which is, you know, whether it's the NCAA tournament or a conference tournament, feels different. Well, what happened for those guys? Well, the guys that stuck around, who had the guts to stick around, you know, they only went to the Elite Eight and then the Final Four after, right? And so, you know, I think that's what this is like all about. Is like this is not. None of this is going to be perfect for any of us. You know, we just got to be able to fight through and kind of enjoy the competition. And I don't enjoy losing ever, but I do enjoy competing, even when I think maybe we're a little bit up against it. Yeah.
There was a stretch kind of middle of the first half where they started to go on a run.
Yeah.
And you've seen it, you know, in other games where you're neck and neck in that first part of the game or whatever part. Team goes on a big run.
Yeah.
What's the kind of strategy, at least tonight, from you guys?
We just have a hard. I think I called 2
2
timeouts in the first half, which maybe the first time in my career, maybe. But we just have a hard time guarding. I mean, look, this is like not. You don't have to have like a super great basketball sense to understand. Like when we're starting guys the size we're starting them, and like their offensive abilities are pretty darn good. Their defensive abilities, they're not great. This is not a surprise to anyone. We have a hard time with that, right? Like it's and you're trying to stop the bleeding by doing what? By switching defenses, by playing zone, by coming out of a timeout with a different defense, by changing your pick and roll coverage, doing anything you can, you know. But we're having a hard time with that resistance, you know, at the rim, and then like. I thought they got it going in transition. We missed some. You missed layups. We really missed 2 layups to start, but some open like paint threes. You missed those. Like those are run out opportunities, right? The old threes rebound long and then they go flying up the court. And so you got to knock a few of those down to try to set your defense. We've also brought the clock down, right? I don't know if you guys realize, like we're not playing at the tempo we were playing at on Martin Luther King Day and before that. Right, we're 61 possessions today. I'm trying. We're kind of proud of ourselves there. We're like, hey, we're down to 61 possessions. Give ourselves every chance to, you know, there's a football thing, and Virginia, this applies to them too. You want to play good defense? Play less of it. Right? The reason why Virginia is so good defensively is because you're on defense for a long time. Right? Blocker, mover, they're just moving the ball side, and then, you know, then their offense is on defense less. So you're doing a little bit of that, and I actually think in the second half it was pretty good.
More questions? All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks.